Hello and welcome everyone. And I would like to introduce you to my cat Elsie, but also to Emma Wollstonecroft, who this is the first time I met Emma, so I'm very happy to be with her. But actually I saw a Facebook post, a little video of Emma doing the most wonderful little TNR capture of a little kitten in Ibiza, and it just it made me think I want to talk to this lady. So and here she is. She's very kindly agreed to have a chat with me today, and we're going to talk about her work with a charity in Ibiza. And for many of us here in the UK, we know Ibiza is a holiday destination. But Emma, I wonder whether for all of our colleagues from around the world, whether you can tell us about the island.
Yeah, sure. Ibiza is, as you've quite rightly said, a holiday island, and many people associate it with parties. It is known as the Party Island. Also, it's known as the White Island. You might hear it called that. And it is a very beautiful island. It's kind of in two halves, really. You've got the party side, but you've also got the unspoilt section as well, which tends to be the north of the island. It is very beautiful, but it also has a dark side. And for me, the dark side is the treatment of animals, and especially cats. They're not really controlled by any means by the government. They very rarely do any campaigns, and so my involvement in the TNR of the cats on the island means that Ibiza for me is not really a holiday destination anymore, sadly.
No, it's a real sort of working thing for you, isn't it? So tell me about the cat population in general. I mean, is it predominantly free roaming street cats, or is there a thriving pet cat population there as well?
I think the many owned cats have come from the street. However, I did notice a post on Facebook recently where there were kittens, the Persian ones with the flat faces, being sold in a pet shop. Now, I think it has been banned in a lot of places, but Spain's usually a little bit behind with those things. So the majority of cats, I think, come from people's pets having litters, and one of the main reasons for this is that neutering cats on the island is very expensive. So if you own a pet and it gets out, and because you haven't neutered it then gives birth to 6 kittens, and then you give them away, and then the situation just gets worse and worse because the people you give them to either can't afford to neuter them. As I say, €135, I think it is, to neuter a female pet cat. And so the situation gets out of hand because sadly people can't afford to neuter, or they don't believe in it. We do have this quite a lot on the island, where they actually accuse the charity of interfering and not letting nature take its course. So there's various reasons why there are a lot of free roaming cats.
Yeah, and it sounds like very much that the pet cat population feeds into the street, which feeds into the pet cat. So, if you're not controlling breeding because of the prohibitive costs of neutering, it's
exactly. And of course, we know that a feral cat isn't capable of putting her kittens in a plastic bag and depositing them in the bin. This is humans. So sadly, this is something else that very upsetting, and the only effective way is to just neuter as many cats as we can. And we also help by, if people have adopted street cats, we try and give them a little bit of a helping hand, because we just want less kittens to be born. They're being born to a very uncertain future.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's just too many of them.
Do you have any idea of numbers?
Well, I can tell you from statistics that over the last, 2022, we sterilised 1,982 cats, of which 1,128 were females. So if you just work out the maths, if they had 2 or 3 litters a year, we probably saved almost 20,000 kittens from being born on the street just by neutering those 1,128. However, the sad realization is that for every female that we don't know about or that we miss, then it goes on, because kittens of 6 months can have litters themselves, and so we're always on a battle. We're always on catch up with the cat population. Over the last, we've been operating for 23 years. So I reckon between 1,000 and 1,500 a year for that length of time. Plus, as I say, the last year we did nearly 2,000. So far this year, we've neutered 630. So we've had a really good start to the year.
Yeah. And do you have any sense of the overall impact on the population? Because you know as well as I do that you get these huge numbers of neutering, but it's almost like it's a battle almost you feel you can't win, because you neuter loads and still you have all these cats on the street. Do you have any sense whether you're stabilizing the population at all?
We actually are, and I do get quite a bit of feedback from people generally that come to the island, and they say, oh, I didn't really see any cats. But of course they are in the main towns, Ibiza town, a lot of the main towns we have gained control. But what we're finding increasingly is the campo cats, and this is a combination of things. First of all, the local people, they've just never really thought about neutering them. They just think, I need a few cats. They catch the rats, they catch the mice, that sort of thing. But the problem being, a lot of the rural hotels that we've actually done TNR work in, it's ongoing. And when we've looked around the area, we realise it's because they're in the countryside and there's farms and there's, local people, and they just don't think to do it. I did so many last year and they just keep coming. We then start to look in the areas surrounding them, and we do offer to neuter them for free. Sometimes they refuse, they don't want us to. So it is a constant battle, but we have to, we use whatever means we can to get to the bottom of it.
And I think that you highlighted something there for me, which is really important for everybody to understand. It's not just about TNR. It's not just about grabbing cats, neutering them, putting them back where they came from. It's understanding where the constant source of supply comes from in other areas. And as you've highlighted, yes, we're doing a great job with that little colony in that hotel, but then we have to consider people that live around and the wider population. So do you have homing centres or shelters on Ibiza?
Sadly, there is no, there's one shelter, but it belongs to Ibiza town, and they do an all year round neutering campaign. And so when we look at our statistics, because we keep meticulous records so that we know if we've done a job, we put it on a map and it's highlighted in a different colour so that we know the problem areas, and we can tackle because we've got to get the last colony closed, we've got to get the last cat. But Ibiza town runs their own campaign, but that's only one of the 5 municipalities. If they all did that, there wouldn't be a problem. But they have their own shelter called Sakoma, but they only will take cats in the area of Ibiza town. Okay. And sadly, for the rest of the island, there's nothing. There's Natura Park, which is supposed to pick up the sick and injured cats through the police, and there's also Can Dog, but I don't know, you probably don't know, but there's a problem with Can Dog at the moment. So cat, it's not a good place for cats at all. So what tends to happen is if the cats get get there for whatever reason, local charities take them away and foster them and get them adopted. So the answer to your question is no, there's no effective shelter on the island, really.
And is there any sense that there could be some sort of collaborative across the island approach to this?
There's been talk about it for several years. So far, nothing's happened. And this year, there's elections in Ibiza. And sadly, the cats are way down on the list of priorities, as usual.
I can imagine. And what about your veterinary partners? How is that working for you? Is that working well?
Yeah, we have a good relationship with a few vet. I mean, I think somebody said there's 14 clinics on the island. I mean, it's a small island, and I was shocked at the number of veterinary practices. We use probably 4 or 5 dotted about the island. They all charge varying prices, and none of them do it for free. But we, sadly, if we've got a big colony, the most effective way of doing a big colony is when you go, none are done, you trap as many as you can, because the next time you go, you've then got to deal with some being done and some not being done, and it's always more difficult. So when the vets say, we can only have 3 one day and 2 the next day, it really puts a lot of pressure on us. And also the vets, some of the vets have put their prices up by 50%, so that one female cat is €80, and if it's pregnant, it's somewhere in the region of 100 to 110, something like that. So, our fundraising's got, it's really more relevant now. Yeah. I must point out, because we're very grateful to Bridget Bardot, who's sponsored us for the last 5 or 6 years, maybe a touch more, and they are incredibly supportive of the TNR work, and we are really grateful. They contribute quite a lot to our neutering. So it's really good
to know. And of course, we will make sure that all our newsletter readers are familiar with your charity, which was called
Care4Cats.
Care4Cats.
Care number 4 cats, yeah.
Got you. So they can sort of get in touch with you and, just touch base with you. So do you have any tips for people who find themselves in situations where they want to help, they want to do some TNR and don't really know how to go about starting? Do you have any tips based on your own experience?
Well, that's how I got involved, actually, because we have an apartment in Ibiza, and every time we went to the apartment, but in the beginning we didn't go very often because of children and young children, but we'd go 2 or 3 times a year, and every time we went, there just seemed to be more and more cats. You'd open your patio door and there'd be like half a dozen sat there waiting. They're very clever cats. They know who's going to feed them, I think. But of course, one of the problems is if you're feeding cats, you should be neutering them as well. And we're trying to get this across to people. Feeding them encourages them because they're then healthier. They have more kittens. Are we doing the right thing? So I think it's very important. If you're feeding, you must neuter. But yeah, that's how I got involved with TNR. So the biggest thing, I think, is to make sure that each colony is closed. That's the most important. And keep proper records and use whatever means you can, whether it be, we've got various means of trapping cats. We've got the usual automatic traps. We've got a dropper, which is a cage with a loose bottom, that if you can get close to them. Manual traps are brilliant for when some cats are done and some aren't done. So you can pick the ones you want. But yeah, the tip really is to just be very methodical and gain control.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Thank you so much for talking to me, Emma. It's been great to talk to somebody who really is an advocate for TNR and understands that that's just part of that bigger picture of all the other things you have to do to stabilise and create a healthy, free-roaming, neutered population.
Yeah, and another thing that, if I can just point something else out, is once the sort of the goal is to get control, then we can start taking more care of the cats that we have. We can vaccinate them. We can treat them for other, worms and fleas and do that sort of thing. So at the moment, we've got to put all our money into gaining control, and then we can start to look at colony care and that sort of thing. So unfortunately with COVID, I think we've taken a step back. But with the figures on this year, I really feel we can really make a difference in the coming year.
I think so. It sounds like a really brilliant start to the year for you, and I wish you continued success. And a big thank you really for everything you're doing on Ibiza. And thanks for talking with me today, Emma. Thanks very much.
No, thank you. Thank you.